The more I think about it, Mel Brooks isn't the only one that's celebrating a milestone birthday this year. It just so happens this year is the birthday of America. Yeah, 250th. And there's gotta be something that coincides. Ooh, what do we have here? 1776. It's perfect. The year when America was born. A compelling story on how the Declaration of Independence was crafted together. It's bold, clean, safe.
But life is more than sexual combustibility.
Jefferson, stop right there.
Combustibility.
Quiet!
Oh no. My only copy of 1776 just mysteriously disappeared. It was the only one I had in the house. Maybe there's something I can fill that void with. A perfect piece of pure Americana that not only celebrates Mel Brooks, but America's 250th. Word to the wise, always have a backup plan.
We take $1 million and we fly to Rio de Janeiro.
What the hell am I looking at?
May the Schwartz be with you.
Even though Mel Brooks had 2 movies under his filmography at the time, they were not enough to cement his name in Hollywood. Now, granted, the producers did get him his first Oscar, and The 12 Chairs got a lot of critical praise, like his first film, but they were both art house pictures, and Brooks really needed a commercial hit to solidify his name in the business. All seemed lost, until a talent agent by the name of David Beagleman offered him out to lunch. David was a big fan of his work and shared with Brooks a script called Text X, a western that poked fun at westerns while carrying dialogue that had a modern talk. Mel worked with the script's writer Andrew Bergman to flesh out more ideas. Extra comedy writers such as Richard Pryor, Norman Steinberg, and Alan Euger were brought in, and were told to go nuts no matter how bizarre it got. Yet there was something about this wild comedy that attracted Mel Brooks to it first on hand. He didn't know what it was, but it turned into the legendary Blazing Saddles. The plot centers on a peaceful western town named Rockridge, who is under the menace from a variety of thugs who don't hold back. Even little old ladies get the worst of it.
Ow! Have you ever seen such cruelty? Ooh! Ooh! Ow!
As it turns out, this is all a ploy from the Attorney General, Hedy Lamarr.
It's not Heady, it's Headley.
Whatever. He's causing all this commotion to run the people out of town just so he can reroute the construction of a new railroad when the original path they were building on leads to quicksand. However, the Rockridge citizens refuse to leave and demand to the governor, who is also in cahoots with Headley, to appoint them a new sheriff. So Headley hires a black railroad worker named Bart who believes messing with their racial prejudices result in them leaving for good. At first it works, until the townsfolk see the help Bart is doing and eventually warm up to him. Once Bart discovers the true intentions of Lamar's plans, he decides to turn the tables with the help of an ex-alcoholic gunslinger named Jim, also known as the Waco Kid. Will our heroes succeed? Will the villains get control of the town? Does the final third act involve a lot of fourth wall breaking the likes no one has ever seen?
Why am I asking you?
With a simple premise like that, Blazing Saddles is truly one never to forget, especially with the fun characters that it's paired with. Cleveland Little plays Bart, who has a lot to deal with. He has to win the hearts of the townsfolk, overcome the evil plans of Headley, and all while keeping to his wits. It's interesting because originally Mel Brooks wanted Richard Pryor to play the role, given Pryor took part in the writing sessions. The story goes that Warner Brothers didn't want him, and thus they ended up with Broadway actor Cleveland Little. To date, this might be Cleveland's most notable role. There's this sly yet anarchic personality to Bart on the script, but it's the performance of Cleveland Little who brings so much charm to the role. I love his introduction where his bosses try to get him to sing Camptown Races, playing into the racial treatment. Bart and his crew instead croon I Get a Kick Out of You. The bosses keep egging them on until the fools themselves end up singing Camptown Races, and all the while Bart grins knowing how much they fell into their own trap. Or how about this one when he arrives in Rockridge for the first time? Everyone is a fingernail away from murdering him. So what does Bart do? He holds himself hostage, much to their confusion. It's flippin' hilarious.
Robert, or I swear I'll blow his head all over this town. Oh, Lordy Lord, he's desperate. Do what he say, do what he say.
There's just something about Bart that is rebellious, but only when he knows someone deserves it. It's the classic case of treat others the way you want to be treated. If you see him as a human being, Bart will treat you as such. And that's where the other heart of the movie comes in. Gene Wilder as Jim the Waco Kid. Compared to the other performances, Gene plays this so quiet and smooth that you could argue it's one of his better roles. He convincingly plays the role of a has-been gunslinger resorted to alcoholism. Gene never goes over the top or even gets mad. He plays it smooth and cool.
I was just walking down the street, and I heard a voice behind me say, "Reach for it, mister." And there I was, face to face with a 6-year-old kid. Well, I just threw my guns down and walked away. Little bastard shot me in the ass.
Again, anyone could have played up the angst, but Gene doesn't. This makes the Waco Kid a mysterious yet interesting character, especially when his old abilities start to come back to him.
Go. You looking for this?
Now, the original idea that Mel had in mind for the Waco Kid was to have him be portrayed by an actual veteran of classic westerns. And that went swimmingly well, to say the least. They first offered the role to John Wayne, who was a big fan of the producers, and he admitted the script for Blazing Saddles was funny, but too dirty for him. Though, again, he admitted it was a solid script nonetheless.
What would John Wayne do?
Say something racist.
Thus, Yeg Young was hired on, and on first day of filming, he blew it. With chunks. Literally. The guy was going through a drinking problem. Day one of filming, he couldn't even get through his first line and spewed all over the floor on the set they were using for the prison cell. Mel called Gene, Gene hopped onto a plane the next day afterwards, and the rest was history. Aside from good heroes, you also have some very fun villains. That's Harvey Korman as Hedy Lamarr.
It's Headley.
Whatever. This is a pure staple of classic westerns, the kind that wears a top hat and twisty mustache, the bad guy that has so much power at his control that he'll do anything, even if it means putting citizens in pure jeopardy, just to gain what he wants. Not only would this be the first of many collaborations Corman would have with Mel Brooks, but it's a part that perfectly fits him. I just love how he channels this dignified and posh personality that makes him stand out from the other Western baddies. The only way to defeat him at the end of the day is with brains as opposed to brawn. And he's so particular how things should go his way that it's so funny when he clashes with the other character's mindset.
We'll head him off at the pass!
Head them off at the pass? I detest that cliche!
His minion Taggart, played by the amazing Slim Pickens, is practically the total opposite.
We'll kill the firstborn male child in every household.
Too Jewish.
He's the perfect villainous stereotype of a Western thug, and you can tell he's enjoying every second he's on screen. He lacks the elegant nature of Headley and is a pure brute, which makes him funny when him and Corman are on screen batting against each other. Even Mongo, one of the outlaws who is set off to menace Rockridge, is memorable.
Santa Maria!
This is the pure definition of a big, dumb, yet strong brute you don't want to mess with. Which makes it the more hilarious when Bart takes him out with Looney Tunes logic.
Mungo like candy.
Most interesting is how Mog was played by Alex Karras, a 4-time Pro Bowl for the Detroit Lions for the NFL. Alex had little to no acting experience, but somehow his athletic demeanor is a perfect fit here.
Mungo only pawn in game of life.
This movie also marks the first time Mel Brooks worked with Madeline Kahn, who plays the sultry Lily von Stupp. It's a small role, but one never to forget with her rendition of I'm Tired, a hilarious parody and send-off to Marlene Dietrich. Again, it's a small part, but Kahn literally commands the stage with her presence. The song and her mannerisms are such a good fit for how she lazily acts sultry, but does so in an over-exaggerated manner. Of course, this is all a simple ploy from Hedley to, once again, doing the sheriff, but all that changes when she discovers the truth.
Is it true what they say about the way you people are gifted? Oh, it's true. It's true. It's true. It's true.
Now, what attracted to Mel Brooks in the first place to make Blazing Saddles is more than just creating a wild comedy. He always believed that certain comedy should have a great engine driving it, and in fact, there was a good one attached to it too. It's one thing to have jokes, but you gotta have a support pillar in order for them to exist. In this case, it's racial prejudice. The main character Bart goes up against a lot of this, whether it's the negative treatment of his bosses or the hostile bias from the townsfolk. Yet what helps is Bart's ingenuity and quick thinking that let the audience know he's pretty aware of what's going on. It says a lot when the usage of the N-word is only negatively used by the bad guys and the inhabitants of Rockridge. In fact, I think Gene Wilder's character Jim is one of the few who doesn't even say the word. I don't know if that was intentional, but that's a clever piece of subtlety to show who's respectable to Bart and not. Blazing Saddles isn't afraid to showcase this harsh reality, which sadly to this day probably is not going to go away. Now, I'm not a fan of racism, but I must express this movie is presenting how wrong it is, and is clearly not in support of this kind of behavior. There's a scene where Bart greets an old lady, who of course tells him off and drops the N-word, but it also leads to this moment.
You gotta remember that these are just simple farmers. These are people of the land. The common clay of the New West. You know. Morons.
Now that works because it goes from a shocking moment and followed up with a motivational laugh. If the movie was dropping racial slurs for the sake of being shocking without reason, Blazing Saddles wouldn't have a purpose to exist. I emphasize, this is a major backbone of the plot, and some folks might think differently if they are that dense or easily offended. It would have been so hard to remake this movie today because the theme of racial prejudice is what motivates the story. It would be like doing American History X with Edward Norton's character as a good guy. There's a reason why his character is a skinhead for that journey in prison to take place, so we can understand what is right and wrong. But you know what? They did try to make a version of Blazing Saddles with all the hard-edged racial stuff. And guess what? Nobody remembers it.
Paws of Fury, the Legend of Hank.
Who?
Yeah, I know it was intended to be an homage to Blazing Saddles, and at one point it was dubbed Blazing Samurai, which I arguably think was a better title, and even Mel Brooks himself gave his seal stamp of approval by producing it and voicing the Shogun cat, blah blah blah, bleep bleep bleep. But you know what? Who cares? But if you want to know the true $1 million question, am I going to cover it on this season of the show? No. Bottom line, this movie is unapologetic, but with good reason. Just something to mention for newcomers. But enough of that, how does the rest of Blazing Saddles hold up? Surprisingly well and damn hilarious. It's not afraid to poke fun at the Western genre. For a while, you had tons of movies and shows painting a picture of how clean-cut and campy it looked. Sure, there were classics like True Grit or High Noon, but they never dived deep into the nitty-gritty, or exposed how unhinged things were. resulting in the affair looking through nostalgic rose-tinted glasses. Yeah, Fistful of Dollars could be considered the first gritty western, but Blazing Saddles addressed that some tropes and cliches are being a bit overused. Mel noticed a lot of westerns had scenes where cowboys would consume coffee or beans over an open flame. Oh, they do that here, but with a more realistic twist.
Golden Corral's new slogan.
Fun fact, when Blazing Saddles came out on the scene, a lot of westerns down the road cut back on the beans and coffee around the campfire scenes. Though when Blazing Saddles premiered on television,
I don't accident.
Oh my God, where are the sounds?
yeah, it looks really weird just seeing him stand up for no reason. Okay, how about this? Almost every western uses Johnson as a last name, so almost everyone in Rockridge is named Johnson. Even someone is referenced after the famous Howard Johnson ice cream and hotel chain. Again, blurring the line between traditional and modern culture. My favorite running gag involves a bunch of cattle that constantly appear around town. They're in saloons, and at one point move through a town meeting, and later they can be seen in the background of a movie theater. It's random, but you can't help but laugh at the constant steering. Even if it does look like a western, the dialogue is treated with modern flair. There's references to stuff in the 1970s that still works because of how they are said or used.
What in the wide, wide world of sports is going on here? You do it for Randolph Scott.
Randolph Scott.
And now, for my next impression, Jesse Owens. Seize them! Catch them!
In a way, I feel this predates Disney's Aladdin, where a traditional story is being told with some pop culture references snuck in. Granted, it was the genie referencing well-known figures of modern time, and the idea of mixing past and modern culture was nothing too new. But it was Blazing Saddles that cemented the idea of how funny it would be to combine the two together. Sure, you probably had tons of Looney Tunes shorts and Three Stooges shorts that were doing this sort of thing, but I believe it was Blazing Saddles that cemented the idea of how funny it would be to combine the two together. So you're probably thinking with all the praise I'm giving here that Blazing Saddles is by far my all-time favorite Mel Brooks movie. Well, I like it, but it's not. Dial back, hold the bus. I said I like it. I like it. Otherwise, I wouldn't have the VHS copy in my collection. P.S. Thank you, Uncle Todd. The bad news? There's two possible major nitpicks that hold me back from saying this Mel Brooks movie is my all-time favorite. But I like it. I do. But if I didn't pick on two things that bug me, it's this. It's a well-written comedy, don't get me wrong, but even some of that racial stuff can go as far as it can. Not to the point it's too mean-spirited for rewatchability, but in many ways, you wonder how it tests the limits of other viewers. Now, I don't mind it, but in today's world that's constantly changing with different social attitudes, the value of this one will solely depend on the viewers. Some of that, again, still holds up, but other times, those little bits can be too on the nose.
As big as Zane and deine Leben? They darker than us. Woof!
The other is the ending, and this is a major spoiler. I know I've been light on the other two previous Mel Brooks movies, but this is a case where I have to talk about the conclusion because it's a big part of the movie, and another reason why. So, if you don't want to be spoiled for all of you newcomers out here, jump to this time code right here, because let me tell you, seeing this movie for the first time cold turkey is better than me just saying, look at what we got, y'all. Anyway, Hedley Lamar rounds a posse of evildoers in the hopes they will drive the residents out for good. Bart and Jim find out, convince the townsfolk to put aside the racial bias for extra help, and build a fake version of Rockridge. The bad guys buy the plot, and they start to blow it up. Well, looks like Michael Cimino's filming another Western again. Everyone jumps in, they have a big fight. But what's this? The camera is pulling out to reveal everything is taking place on a studio backlot. And before you can question sanity, the fourth wall is broken. No, actually, I take that back. The fourth wall gets demolished. The fight is so big that it invades the filming of a musical and eventually into the studio's lunchroom.
Get your pies for the great pie fight!
Headley tries to escape the movie by hiding out at the Man's Chinese Theater where Blazing Saddles is being shown. Hi?
Shit.
No, officer. I didn't take all the drugs. The movie is one. Eventually leading to a final showdown between hero and villain.
How did he do such fantastic stunts with such little feet?
Now, this ending is the best and worst thing about Blazing Saddles. You are so caught up in the way this movie emulates a Western that you kind of want to see it end like one. And to be fair, it does. Albeit unconventionally. It's chaotic and mind-numbing to the point you wonder what reality is like here. On the other hand, the whole movie is basically a Looney Tunes cartoon in live action. There's a gag early on before the chaos where they build a fake toll booth for Taggart and crew to serve as a distraction so they can buy more time to finish the fake town.
Has anybody got a dime? Somebody's got to go back and get a shitload of dimes.
Sure, Taggart and his bandits could go around the toll booth so easily, but they don't. They just keep going one at a time, entering dimes. And that's what makes the scene so funny. All sense of logic is ignored just so everyone sticks to the movie's universe. They don't question it, they just go with it. Only one can imagine what it was like back then, and seeing what audiences' reactions were like for the first time, seeing this insane conclusion. They were already sold at the start and probably didn't expect anything like this. I don't believe the ending to Blazing Saddles is a bad one, but it's still a lot to process given how reality and fantasy blur here. Then again, how else would you conclude a movie like this? When Blazing Saddles had its first screening at the Avico Embassy Theater in Los Angeles, the audience loved it. It seemed like a surefire win, except for one thing. The head of Warner Brothers wanted to make some edits. Very heavy edits. There's a famous story that goes he told Mel Brooks to jot down on a pad of paper the things he wanted cut out. Stuff from the farting scene to the use of the N-word, to even things like Mongo hitting a horse, or stuff with the governor's secretary.
Holy underwear!
The guy even wanted Madeline Kahn's big number removed, because he considered it too dirty. With all that stuff taken out, Blazing Saddles would have been the shortest movie Mel Brooks ever filmed. After the guy left, Mel threw the page of notes in the wastebasket, and happy to know, Mel had a final cut clause in his contract, so not a single thing was cut. Yet the material that Brooks did remove is interesting. There was a lot more Mongo that made its way to the cutting room floor, with coin-operated sheriff games, and Mongo tripped into deep sea while diving. It's good stuff, but nothing tops the exploding candygram. Ever wonder how Bart and Jim got away from Headley's crew? Again, it's a cute gag, but doesn't add much to the plot. There's even a sequence before the big fight where the governor, played by Mel Brooks, visits the fake Rock Ridge. There are some really funny bits here, but when it stops the plot to tell a joke, it'll stop the plot. A lot of these deleted scenes made their way into some television airings or even a bonus feature on the DVD. They're definitely worth a look, but yeah, the movie's better off with some of these bits. Yet, Warner Brothers was not convinced that a surefire hit, and they were a thumbnail away from letting it be unreleased, or simply dumping the picture into theaters without any fanfare.
Bullshit!
But then studio president John Colley, who had pure faith in Mel Brooks, suggested this: to release the movie in a small limited run in cities in Los Angeles, Chicago, and New York, just to see how it would do. And based on those reactions, they would expand it nationwide, or not. Back then, things were different. Multiplexes and multi-screens were not a common thing. It was just one screen, you booked a movie, and that was that. The will to send it into nationwide release was a major gamble back then. So they'd test the waters by limiting things, and then based on those reactions they would expand it a bit further. February of 1974, Blazing Saddles was released in those 3 cities, and it was a major hit, based on box office, word of mouth, and a lot of pleased results from the exhibitors that picked up the flick. And based on those reactions alone, Warner Bros. Decided they didn't have much going on in the summer, we're just gonna create a couple more prints and expand its release even further. Now, originally Blazing Saddles was set to end its distribution theatrical presentation somewhere between June and July, but because of the heavy demand from so many theatrical exhibitors, they had no choice but to leave it until Labor Day. Some theaters even demanded to keep the movie in extra days or weeks just because of how popular it was.
Holy underwear!
Oh yeah, a film was a hit, just like that. You know you're doing something right when the owner of an independent theater, or even a chain for that matter, doesn't want to give up the movie that is doing so well because of another one they booked. Amazing. Blazing Saddles is pure anarchy, but there's heart to it. The movie does carry a good message, but rewards you with laughs. It's a pure staple of cinema that everyone seems to cite as one of their personal favorites from Mel Brooks' filmography. And I can understand why. It's not a movie that I would put on repeatedly, but it is one I do turn on when it comes to watching something with friends, or if I'm having a bad day. It's the pure definition of a true crowd pleaser. A testament to remind us how far comedy should go, even when it challenges our own sense of whether we should laugh or tug on our shirt collars awkwardly. Even if some aspects of this movie are dated and questionable in quality, Blazing Saddles is still a pure piece of Americana that we can all thank Mel for making. Blazing Saddles itself was a big gamble, but it was one that solidified Mel Brooks' name at the start of 1974. Truly enough, he was seen as a profitable director, but it was his next movie that solidified himself as a household name. And it ended 1974 on a very electrifying note. But that is another story. See you on the next upload, folks.
He rode a blazing saddle, he wore a shining star. His job to offer battle to bad men near and far. He conquered fear and he conquered hate. He turned dark night into day. He made his blazing saddle a torch to light the way. When outlaws rule the West and fear filled the land, a cry went up for a man with guts to take the West in hand. They needed a man who was brave and true, with justice for all as his name. Then out of the sun rode a man with a gun and hard was his name. Oh, yes, hard was his name. Oh, he rode a blazing saddle, he wore a shining star. His job to offer battle to bad men near and far. He conquered fear and he conquered hate. He turned dark night into day.
Cut.
Come on, let's check out the end of the flick.
Yeah. Gee, I sure hope there's a happy ending. I love a happy ending.
Kill the monster! See Mel Brooks' Young Frankenstein.
Yes, I think we could all use a good laugh.
But don't see it alone. Don't miss Young Frankenstein, personally directed by Mel Blazing Saddles Brooks, in black and white. No offense.